Keep watching if you want to learn how to make this crochet Christmas sweater. For yarn, I'm using the Caron 1 pound. I used about 1 1/4 skeins, and I'm a size small to medium. It is cost effective, but I do recommend a softer yarn if you can find it and afford it. You'll need 2 crochet hooks, a small one and a larger one. I'm using a 3.5 and a 6mm. To get started, make a chain that is however wide you want your ribbing to be along the bottom of your sweater. I made a chain of 16. Then work a single crochet into the second chain from the hook and work single crochet in each chain all the way down. When you get to the end, chain 1 and turn, then working into the back loops only. Again, just do single crochet in each stitch all the way down. So just keep working rows back and forth like that until you reach the correct width that you want your sweater to be along the bottom. And make sure that you end up with an even number of rows. For this next step, I'm just showing it on a small sample, but this would be a much longer piece for the bottom ribbing. So switch to your larger hook and chain 1, then just work 1 single crochet into each row. So you're working along the side of that ribbing that you just worked, and again 1 single crochet into the end of each row. When you get to the end, chain 1 and turn, then work a single crochet into the first stitch and then a double crochet into the next stitch. And you're just gonna keep repeating this pattern, single crochet and double crochet. Since you should have had an even number of single crochet on the previous row, you should be finishing this row with a double crochet. From here on out, each row will start with a single crochet and end with a double crochet. Before finishing up this row, I'm going to change to white and pull through those last 2 loops. Then I'm just going to work a row of white, just working over that tail. So again, start with a single crochet, then a double crochet, and keep alternating. Now I'm finishing up my second row of white, and I'm going to switch back to red, which I left attached to the work. Then I did 2 more rows of red, and then I'll do 2 more rows of white. And the strands of red and white along the side will end up being hidden, so don't worry about that. After that last row of white, then just work red back and forth until you have the correct height for your sweater, and this is going to be the back of your sweater. After you finish your last row, work 1 more row of single crochet and then work a border going down one edge along the bottom and up the other edge. To do this, alternate between putting 2 single crochet in one row and then 1 single crochet into the next row, and then along the bottom just do a single crochet into each row using your smaller hook around the ribbing. This really doesn't have to be perfect, it just makes sewing it all together a lot easier. Go watch part 2 to learn how to make the front. This is part 2 of how to make this crochet Christmas sweater. In this part, I'm going to show you how to make the front panel. So just make the front the exact same way as you did the back, but make 10 less rows than what you did for the back. Now what we're going to do to finish up the front is keep working up either side so that there is a scoop neck. Measure however wide you want your neckline to be, and then center that measurement on the front panel. Then put stitch markers on either end of that measurement and make sure you have the same number of stitches on either side of the stitch markers. Next, count 5 stitches in from each stitch marker and replace your stitch markers into that stitch. So that 5 stitch difference is where we're going to place those curves going up on either side. So you should still have your work attached. We just finished up that last row on the front, chain 1 and turn, and then just work the same pattern alternating between single crochet and double crochet until you reach that first stitch marker and work into that stitch. So my last stitch was a double crochet. It doesn't matter what your last stitch is, regardless, chain 1 and turn. Then work a decrease. So you're going to work 2 single crochet together, which means you insert your hook into the first stitch, pull through, and then insert into the next stitch, pull through, and then pull through all 3 loops. Then if that next stitch was a double crochet, you want to work a single crochet and vice versa, and then just keep alternating all the way down and then all the way back. Again, when you're coming back, you want to make sure you're working single crochet into the double crochets from the previous row and vice versa. So I worked down and back, and it doesn't matter whether you end on a single or double crochet, chain 1 and turn. Then again, I'm going to do another decrease, then keep alternating between double and single crochet. Again, if the stitch from the previous row was a single crochet, you're going to work a double crochet into it and vice versa. Then you're going to repeat that 2 more times. So you're going to work down and back, then do another decrease, work down and back, then do another decrease. Then work back down. That'll give you 8 rows, and you should have a decrease at the beginning of every even number row. Then just work 2 more normal rows to get to those 10 rows so that you can meet the correct height that you have for your back. If this alternating stitch pattern is way too confusing, you can also just do the entire sweater in all single or all double crochet. It's totally up to you. So that's going to give you your first side. You can go ahead and fasten off. Go watch part 3 to see how to work up that second side. This is part 3 of how to make a crochet Christmas sweater. In this part, I'm showing you how to finish the front and attach it to the back. Now we need to work up the other side of the scoop neck. To start, we're going to attach the yarn where that stitch marker is and then work down and back. So I insert my hook where that stitch marker was, and then I'm going to pull my yarn through and chain 1. Then again, alternate between single and double crochet. If the stitch from the previous round was a double crochet, work a single crochet and vice versa. In order to tell which is which, a previous single crochet should have a wider gap, so that means we put a double crochet into it. So I just worked down and back, and now I'm on my second row. And so that we're symmetrical with the other side, I'm doing the decrease at the end of the second row on those last 2 stitches. Then just chain 1 and turn, and again work down and back, doing the same pattern. And when you work back, you're going to again do the decrease on the last 2 stitches. Here I'm just showing you that into that decrease, go ahead and work a single crochet and then continue with the pattern. So that next one I had a double crochet for the previous row, so I'm still just working a single crochet and then I'm alternating back and forth. Here I'm showing at the end of the 4th row how I'm going to do a decrease, and then I'm going to work back and forth, and at the end of that 6th row do a decrease, and then back and forth again, and at the end of the 8th row do a decrease, and then just do 2 more normal rows to hit that 10 row mark. So then you should end up with a piece that looks like this. You don't need to fasten off yet. Now turn and work a row of just single crochet along each edge, similar to how you did for the back, and then along that scoop neck. Make sure when you're going around the ribbing that you change to your smaller hook size. Here I'm just showing that when you get to those corners of your neckline, you can work a decrease like I do right here, just to get around that corner and make it curve. So now we're just going to connect the front to the back. After you finish your single crochet border around the front, you don't need to fasten off. We're just going to sew that top edge to the front using single crochet. So this is my front, and I'm connecting it to the back right here. I just counted how many stitches I had along the top of that front panel and put my stitch marker there on the back. Just chain 1, insert your hook into that first single crochet on the front, and then into that single crochet on the back, and then just work a single crochet and work single crochet all the way down on both sides. After that first side, just fasten off. Then attach your yarn on the opposite corner and work along that side. Then we're going to do the neckline. Once you finish sewing along that edge, chain 2, and then we're going to work a double crochet into each single crochet around the neckline. Once you get back to the start, just slip stitch into the top of the first chain 2, and in the beginning of the next part, I'll show you how to finish this neckline. This is part 4 of how to crochet a Christmas sweater. In this part, I'm showing you how to finish the neckline and make the arms. After completing your row of double crochet around the neckline, chain 2, then alternate between doing front post double crochet and back post double crochet. So I just did a front post, now I'm going to do a back post. If you've never done this before, there's lots of tutorials out there. Just work that same pattern all the way around and it'll give you a nice ribbed look. When you get to the end of the round, it doesn't matter if it worked out perfectly for the alternating, just do your best. Then slip stitch to the first stitch and finish off. So that is your front and back panel done. Now I'll show you how to make the arms. Start by making a length of ribbing the exact same way you did for the front and back by doing back loop, single crochet rows, and just make sure it can wrap around your wrist. The number of rows you have should be a multiple of 6. Then fold the work in half, insert into the next single crochet through both loops and then into the chain from the beginning, and then work a single crochet and keep doing that all the way down. Change to your larger hook and chain 1, then work 1 single crochet into each row. I had 30 rows of back loop single crochet, so that means I'll have 30 single crochet going around. Again, it should be a multiple of 6. When you get to the beginning, slip stitch into the first stitch, chain 1 and turn, Then work a single crochet, then a double crochet, and keep alternating back and forth, and you should end with a double crochet. When you get to the end of that round, go ahead and finish off that double crochet, then insert the hook into the first single crochet and pull the white color through. So now you're pulling your color through on the slip stitch. Chain 1 and turn, and then work another row of alternating between single and double crochet. Just like you did for the front, work 2 rows of white, 2 rows of red, then 2 rows of white, and then we're just going to do rows of red the rest of the way. After you have 9 rows, not counting that first single crochet row, then we're going to do an increase row. Divide however many stitches you have by 3, and that's where we're going to put the increases. I had 30 stitches, so in every 10th stitch, I'm going to do an increase. To do an increase for this stitch pattern, start by putting whatever stitch was supposed to go in that stitch anyways, so for me, that was a double crochet. Then put 2 more stitches into that same stitch. So now I'm going to do a single crochet and then another double crochet so that we can stick with that alternating stitch pattern. Then just keep going like normal until you get to that next increase stitch. I only ended up needing 1 increase row. Originally I did 3, so I did an increase row in every 10th row, but that ended up being way too big, so I went back and just did this 1 increase row. So that's why the sizes of my arm changed throughout the video. You can do as many or as little increase rows as you want, just depending on your size. Make 2 of those and go watch the next part. This is part 5 of how to crochet a Christmas sweater. In this part, I'm showing you how to attach the arms and make the Christmas tree. First, you're gonna sew up each side of the sweater. To do that, you need to count how many stitches you have around your armhole. Divide that number in half, and then that's how many stitches you're going to count down on either side of your front and back panel, so that you'll have the same number of stitches around your front and back panel to sew your arm onto. Then just stitch up from the bottom corner along that side until you reach that armhole point. Make sure you use your smaller hook for the ribbing portion and then switch to your larger hook. Here I'm just showing you're just going to work single crochet to stitch those 2 sides together. Once you finish going along that side, you don't need to fasten off yet. We're just going to go ahead and attach the arm right away. So insert your hook into the next single crochet on the body portion and then into a single crochet on the arm and single crochet those together. Do that all the way around, then do the same thing to the other side. Now I'll show you how to make the Christmas tree. So with your green yarn, chain 2, then make a puff stitch into that first chain. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through that stitch, and 1 more time, and then yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook. Then chain 1 and chain 1. Now turn your work, and then you're going to work 2 puff stitches into that next gap. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through the stitch, do that 2 more times, then pull through all the loops, and then go right into another puff stitch. So again, you're doing that yarn over and pull through 3 times total for each puff stitch, then pull through all the loops. Then on that last puff stitch, chain 2 and turn. Then again, we're going to do 2 puff stitches into that first gap, and then we're going to just do 1 puff stitch in the next gap. So just 2 right there. And notice how I'm not doing a chain between puff stitches. I'm just going straight into the next puff stitch. So I'm going into that next gap. And then pull through. And now on this last one, I am going to chain 2 and turn. You're going to keep working this pattern, so you'll always do 2 puff stitches into that first gap, and then just do 1 puff stitch into each stitch the rest of the way, and then for the very last puff stitch of each row, chain 2 at the end. I did 15 rows. You can do as many as you want, just make sure it's an odd number. Fasten off, then figure out where the middle 3 stitches are and attach your yarn, chain 1, and then work a puff stitch in each of those 3 stitches so that we can make the trunk. After finishing those 3, chain 2 and turn and work 1 more row. Then just sew it onto the front, and that's it. Happy crocheting!